happens to the damage?
Well, you should have taken insurance. That is why insurance is there. You see, in the business of shipping, you don't play with insurance. You should always cover yourself, so that when things, even though getting your insurance money is not easy, but at least all hope is not lost, you get your money. But if you don't take insurance, then when something is lost, it becomes your cost. Well, having said that, if the consignee is not happy, maybe he will pay the money, because the ship owner, usually what the ship owner does is to hold the cargo to ransom. If you don't pay all, he will not give you your cargoes. So you have to pay anyway. After paying, then you send him to court. Or if you don't want to send him to court, you have insurance, you just go to your insurance people, they will pay you, and then the insurance will take the case up on your behalf. Okay. It's very, insurance in shipping is very, very important. When you are shipping anything, don't think it is not worth it, and then you just bring it and you find yourself in a very tight corner.
Well, Madam President, the point one is that owners has the right of action against the ship owner for damages, circumstances where the goods may arrive at the destination in a damaged condition.
Yeah.
And
That is what exactly what I'm saying. I say you have to pay, because he will hold the rest. You were supposed to collect 10 boxes. 3 are damaged. He will hold all the 10. So he's not going to, the ship owner is not going to give you. You need your cargo. So you pay him, right? You pay him for all the 10, and then bring a suit against him. That is what you do. Okay? So you have to pay him. Otherwise, he will not release all the consignment to you. So at least if you get all the consignment, you can sell the 7, and then you'll be litigating on the remaining 3. And in shipping, a lot of litigation goes on. A lot. There's always litigation about damaged goods. In fact, it's with the advent for the finished products or manufactured products, it is containerization that has helped to curb the amount of litigations and wranglings in courts these days. But earlier on, there were always a lot of problems, because you always had challenges. You get to some ports, and what the rate at which even the stevedores would steal, and sometimes, it was terrible. So you needed to make sure that your goods were covered. Okay. If you don't have insurance, you are always going to operate at a loss as a cargo owner. Says freight is only not payable if the goods are not delivered because they have been lost or destroyed. That is, their merchantable character or commercial identity is undetermined. Okay. So if the goods are not lost, then you have to pay. Or if they are not destroyed beyond being able to be sold for something else, then you have to pay. So it makes it a bit difficult. So when cargoes are going to be carried, especially in this tramp shipping, and depending upon the type of cargo, they are very, very strict with the loading, so that before the ship loads, for example, if you are going to load some types of cargo like grains, you have to call a surveyor in. He will come and check the compartment. You have to do some testing of the hatches and so on to make sure that the vessel, during the carriage of the goods, the vessel will be intact. There wouldn't be any chance of maybe water coming, seeping through somewhere into the hold to damage the cargo. Or there are no cockroaches or mice or weevils in the hatches. Okay, so they have to do a lot of checking, because sometimes they will destroy the cargo. By the time you get to the end, you can't use it for anything. Or even if you can sell it, you wouldn't get the same price as if you sold the good cargo. We have different types of freight. We have advanced freight or prepaid freight. In this case, when it is prepaid, it is not recoverable. You can't take the freight back once it has been paid. Then we have, these are some terminologies you find on the charter party that we're looking at. They can also have freight payable lost or not lost, unless connected to a fundamental breach. So that one is just, I'm just explaining, unless it is connected to a fundamental breach. Then if it says freight payable lost or not lost, whether your cargo, you receive it or you don't receive it, you still have to pay the freight. So that is what that means. So until and unless it can be proven, for example, if they have this clause and then the ship owner intentionally diverts the ship, goes to sell the cargo somewhere and then comes to you that we've lost it due to bad weather and so on, then there's a fundamental breach in trust and therefore he will be taken on by the court. Okay. Then we have the back freight. Back freight is charged when the cargo is not delivered at destination but returned to the shipper. So if the consignee who was supposed to come and collect the cargo did not come, if you bring the cargo back to its original departure point, you can collect back freight. They have to pay because you took it out and in again. So he has to pay, and that is the back freight. Dead freight, as I explained the last, if the charterer fails to load the vessel with a full and complete cargo, when there was an agreement or an arrangement that you are going to load 100,000 tons and you load only 80 or 70 tons, the difference between that still has to be paid. And it does happen. Sometimes they were expecting to receive a certain amount of consignment, but unfortunately they are not able to take it. But that is the basis upon the arrangement of pricing that you did. You knew you were going to get 100,000 tons, and that is how you calculated the freight. So if he comes back and says, I can only put 70,000 tons in it, you have to still calculate the remaining 30,000 and make him pay. Otherwise, the ship owner would operate at a loss. Okay. So that is the dead freight. Then we have demurrage. Demurrage is a fixed compensation payable by the charterer to the ship owner, either during the loading or discharging, when he exceeds the accepted days for those operations. And that is why sometimes they do the reversible days and so on. Because if it isn't, and you stated that you are going to use 7 days loading, 10 days discharging, if you exceed the 7 days in the loading port and you don't have the reversible provision, then you have to pay. If you exceeded by, let's say, 2 more days, instead of the 7, you ended up using 9 days. You have to pay the demurrage compensation to the ship owner for delaying the ship for 2 extra days. Okay. If the ship had been able to finish loading on time earlier than the 7 days, then the charterer would have earned what we call a dispatch. Dispatch is half the rate for demurrage. So if demurrage, you say that for every day lost, you are going to pay me $100. If in demurrage charges, if he had been able to discharge earlier by 1 day, then instead of paying the dispatch money, $100, the charterer will only get $50. So the dispatch is half the rate for the demurrage. But these days, a lot of times, it's only demurrage you hear. Nobody talks about dispatch because people have sort of become used to the way the chartering business is, and the charterers are not able to maneuver and get longer days, whereby they always have the advantage of finishing earlier and demanding some payments from the ship owner. Once on demurrage, always on demurrage. Once the demurrage starts running, that is, you've exceeded it. With demurrage, normally when in chartering, when you are working, especially in the voyage charters, when you are working, if you give the 5 days, let's say 5 days for loading, if within the 5 days, let's say the engines break down, or the gears, the derricks or cranes of the ship break down, the time frame within which it is broken down will be subtracted from the 5 days. So you would have to make if the loading is continuous 24 hours, the 24 times 5 will give you the length of time the ship is supposed to be loading. So if there's any stoppage which is not intentional, like there's stoppage due to rain, there's stoppage due to breakdown of gears, or whatever reason for the stoppage, they will calculate that and deduct it from the time they spend and slap it on. So if you, for example, there was the aggregate number of stoppages will give you half a day, then when it comes to the calculation of the lay time, that half a day will be added on for the charterer. So not until that half a day is exhausted over the 6 days, so 6